On the night of January 5th, the 5th edition of RAF, or Real American Freestyle, took place, and that card featured all sorts of participants, from former and current world and Olympic champions, to fighters from MMA, to wrestling influencers. It kicked off with a matchup between two of the most prominent influencers in the space, where Giorgio Poulas, after some backstage tension with Muggsy, finished him in a minute and a half, 11 points to 1. And Giorgio is famous for standing in public places promising $1,000 for anyone who can take him down, despite the controversy some of these takedowns have caused, and we're not going to get into the details of that here. This kid technically has not been taken down in front of the camera so far. By the way, he is hated among the fans because they believe he only faces regular people and hasn't faced any real challenge against a wrestler of his caliber yet. Then later in that event, Arman, just like Giorgio, fought his first match in RAF when he finished former NCAA champion and PFL WSOF champion Lance Palmer, exactly as Giorgio did in his match earlier, in a minute and a half. And in freestyle wrestling, when the point differential reaches 10, the match is stopped by what is called a technical fall. Then, with Arman continuing to be away from the UFC cage because of what you already know, and with Michael Chandler not responding to him,
What's next for me?
Yeah, what's next?
I hope it's a Michael Chandler RAF.
the idea of a potential matchup between him and that influencer Giorgio was pitched for the first time by Henry Cejudo, and it seems that Cejudo, who has inside connections with the founders of RAF, had some real foresight, because on January 27th that match was officially announced. A lot of people were saying that an influencer like Giorgio wouldn't be able to compete with a professional fighter of Arman's caliber, but I had warned in a previous video that this kid is no pushover. Despite not having a major professional wrestling career and his poor collegiate record, he is at a very high level, and this was a genius move by the RAF team, as the promotional strategy for this matchup was, will Arman be the first man to take down Giorgio Poulas?
1,000 was on the line last match, it'll be on the line this match.
Despite some tension between them during fight week,
Giorgio, I eat you like these chips. Easy.
and statements that didn't bode well.
This is what I'll say. If he gets chippy with me, I'm gonna hand it right back to him. I don't play that shit. If he wants to slap me, I'm gonna punch him in the face.
The challenge remained within the bounds of competition.
If you beat me, I'll get you 10k. If I beat you, you give me 10k.
Deal.
And no one expected what happened between them to unfold the way it did on the night of February 28th. From the very beginning of the match, Giorgio was putting his hand on Arman's face and clubbing him on the head. And these are very standard moves among professional wrestlers. And he used the exact same ones in his match against Muggsy and his other challenges. But he was doing it in a much more aggressive way, and it was obvious he was trying to provoke Arman. And he succeeded, as Arman started complaining to the referee and started acting emotionally, to a point where Izzy had to step in, fearing things would get out of hand, especially with Arman's history full of disasters. Despite the warning the referee gave Giorgio, those slaps got even worse. He was already down 2 points to nothing due to penalties and passivity. But at the end of the first round, Arman's patience ran out when one of those slaps hurt his eye. The referee didn't see it, however, and gifted Giorgio a point due to Arman's constant complaining. That round ended 2 points to 1. In the second round, facing accusations that he was trying to stall and avoid the fight, he came in even more aggressive, and on top of those slaps, he was now twisting Arman's fingers, which is an illegal move in all types of wrestling. Then, with a continuation of those touches, which might seem normal to some or exaggeratedly hostile to others, the referee gave him yet another penalty, and the third point went to Arman. But this strategy of provoking Arman, who loses his temper over the slightest gesture, was working. Despite the headbutt, then the fourth point he gained by pushing Giorgio out of bounds, then his outrage at the end of the second round. Giorgio capitalized on this emotional approach and did what no one expected. He took down the #1 lightweight contender in the world and earned 2 points, making the score 4-3. By the way, the score doesn't matter to Giorgio. His only goal here is to get out of the match without being taken down, so he can remain, as he is known among people now, not being taken down. But Arman wasn't going to let him walk out of this match like that, so he immediately returned the favor with a takedown of his own. And for the first time, we saw Giorgio taken down, and so easily. But the funny thing here is that the takedown happened out of bounds, so it was just a 1-point push out for Arman, and it wasn't counted as a takedown according to the rules of wrestling, so technically no one has taken this kid down. Then, with Arman leading 5-3 and only seconds remaining, Giorgio desperately tried to tie the score, but amidst Arman's defense, we heard the referee's whistle announcing the end of the match. For the mentally challenged Arman, this whistle was the signal to attack the man who provoked him for 3 rounds, and for the 100th time in a row, he lost his temper and rained down punches on the kid, who, to be perfectly honest, got what he deserved. Then you know what happened. Giorgio had nothing in the face of his Armenian onslaught except a few of his family members, and because of the punches he took, he had to go straight to the hospital.
To Arman, you're a little and by the way, if you guys watch the match, I'm the only one that got a takedown. He got pushed out and a couple penalty points. I'm still the champ, baby.
And I can't believe that RAF saw those scenes and said, let's book this match again.
Okay, and when the match is over,
Yeah.
do you and Giorgio leave it there? Will you walk out of there and whatever's behind you is behind you?
We'll see what happens.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
And by the way, if you enjoyed the breakdown, please make sure to hit the likes and of course subscribe, aiming for the 1K subs with your support. Much thanks. Because of the momentum this clash created on social media, and with Arman waiting for another match in Brazil with the Hype FC, where with 2 weeks left until the event, his opponent has yet to be announced. It was a no-brainer to set up a rematch with Giorgio as soon as possible to capitalize on the massive demand for it on social media. On March 3rd, Arman made his first media appearance since that disaster and showed absolutely no remorse or regret for his actions that night.
And like I won the wrestling and I heard the whistle and I said, okay, now it's time because I got the victory.
Okay.
But if I did before, I could like not win him.
And instead of a wrestling rematch, he called for an open sparring session in the gym behind closed doors.
I would like to do sparring, MMA sparring with him. I would like to pay him money and say, let's do a sparring.
filmed or not filmed?
Whatever he wants. I don't want to do it for hype. I just want to do it for me. Just kick his ass so bad.
Then Giorgio accepted that challenge, and we all know that everything he said here was a lie.
Do we have a call with Dana today or tomorrow? So we're currently planning on trying to get a phone call to see if we can make that happen.
During that period, he was getting heavily attacked on social media because the fans felt Arman did take him down, and that he now had to pay out that money he promised. On the day there was talk of a sparring match, Hype FC announced that the rematch would take place in Brazil on March 11th, and this time it wouldn't be a freestyle wrestling match, but a 10-minute grappling match, where victory could only come by submission. And the numbers offered to them for this match were considered astronomical for wrestling, and I won't disclose them because they don't come from official sources. But the very next day, this match was cancelled, with Giorgio pulling out, and this was the right decision because this matchup was created by the RAF organization, and it should only happen under their banner, especially since Giorgio is a freestyle wrestler and wouldn't pose any threat to Arman under Hype FC rules. A few days later, the rematch became official for the RAF 07 event on the night of March 28th, and this kid, who has never wrestled professionally in his life, became the highest paid wrestler for a single match in the history of the sport. And if he was hated before the rematch was announced for denying the takedowns, the fans' hatred for him doubled when they heard his delusional statements.
I'm throwing clubs. That's legal in wrestling. It's a physical sport. That's what we do. I've never let anybody punk me in my life, and Arman's lucky that went down the way it was because I was coming for his head after he hit me. If I connect with one of my punches, he's in trouble. I'm a strong dude. I'm a wrestler and I'm a fighter, and this is what I do. That was very unprofessional and very uncalled for, and whatever I got to do to get a punch off on this guy, I want to make happen.
Before we get into the details of the RAF 07 event, I think it's best to recap what Arman went through from the time the rematch was announced, leading up to Fight Week in Tampa, Florida, if we can even call it a Fight Week. This week, the week the rematch was announced, all the attention was on Las Vegas, where we were getting getting ready to watch a BMF title clash, which Arman was hoping to fight, or after losing out on the interim title opportunity. He showed up in the city on the night of the weigh-ins, where he was with you-know-who, and he promised to wear handcuffs the next night, which is exactly what he did. He appeared at UFC 326 wearing them, sending a clear message that he is currently being held hostage by the UFC. And let's not forget that event, which also saw Giorgio in attendance, was the stage for announcing the lightweight title unification bout, which Arman wasn't extremely happy about. At the post-fight press conference, which the drunks at the T-Mobile Arena weren't happy with, Dana White showed up, and he did not want to talk about that brawl.
Yeah, I don't love it. I don't love it. But that night, that was somebody else's problem, not mine. But
And despite Arman's claims that Dana and Hunter were fine with what he was doing, Dana's facial expressions told us otherwise, and it was sad to see his relationship with the UFC getting worse and worse.
I don't know. I'm not thrilled with Arman right now. And there's a lot of different reasons. It's not just the stuff that you see publicly.
But I think what went down on that night of March 7th was the best possible scenario for him. Charles, without a doubt, is not next in line after Gaethje. Whatever Arman's situation with the organization is, he didn't have enough time to feel sorry for himself. Somehow he popped up in Brazil a few days later, and I don't know how he travels. He was just in California with Khamzat, then suddenly in Las Vegas, and now he shows up in Rio de Janeiro face to face with poor Mokaev, who accepted this matchup on short notice and weighed 23 kilograms less than Arman. Then on the night of March 11th, aside from a fireman's carry that was almost completed, Arman completely dominated and shut his lights out.
He's done. Good night, noble adversary.
As Arman's time away from the UFC cage continues, he's still looking for different wrestling and grappling matches after he's done with Giorgio, maybe with Dylan Dennis or Colby Covington, who claimed he used to play with him at American Top Team.
No, that's a guy I used to beat up on all the time at ATT. You know, he was...
But for context, Arman's arrival at ATT coincided with Colby getting kicked out of the camp, so their paths likely never crossed. Aside from everything we've mentioned, there's nothing else really worth noting, except maybe him linking up with Khamzat in California and continuing his legendary campaign on social media. But honestly, a year ago, he was my favorite fighter, and now I feel disgusted when I look at him. What he's been doing lately isn't fitting for a married man with 2 daughters, and it seems like he's never going to learn from his mistakes, as he almost got into a street fight just to impress that married woman. Heading into fight week in Tampa, there wasn't much to write home about, except for that episode released by Fox Nation, which dove deep into the details of the rivalry between Arman and Giorgio, and this small company is now producing better promotional material than what the UFC is currently doing.
What would you say to him?
Don't be pussy, be man. Be man of your word. Or like go and like dance or do your thing, like a blogger thing, because this freestyle wrestling is a man's sport.
Can you take down Arman Tsarukyan?
I already have.
Are you going to take down Arman Tsarukyan?
You'll see that on the 28th.
Can you beat Arman Tsarukyan?
100%.
Are you going to beat Arman Tsarukyan?
That's my plan.
Then as days passed, Colby and the malicious Dylan Dennis stole the spotlight with statements that only people suffering from mental illnesses would make. We reached Friday, weigh-in day for the UFC, and press conference day for RAF, where Arman and Giorgio crossed paths backstage for the first time since their brawl that night. That press conference featured historic names in the wrestling world and had a formal tone to it, until Dumb and Dumber Colby Covington and Dylan Dennis arrived. I always used to wonder which of them was dumber, until it became clear to me here that it's Colby, who tried to provoke him by talking about his mother, not knowing that Dylan had spicy details about his sister Candace.
Bro, why did you not tell us your mom's hot?
Cheers.
Miss Dennis?
Yeah, you want me to tell you something else?
I'm not going to be able to talk if I see Miss Dennis in here. She is absolutely stunning, gorgeous. Can we get a round of applause for Miss Dennis?
We'll give a shout out to his sister too, because my boy's been banging her for like 5-6 years now. So shout out to Candace.
Then Arman and Giorgio arrived, and their rivalry was much more intense than what was between Colby and Dylan. And judging from those verbal exchanges, I'm not so sure Arman will be able to control himself if he finds it difficult to close the distance on Giorgio like in the first match.
So what's going on with my 10K that we shake the hand?
Well, you give me a date with your girlfriend Nina and I'll give you 10K.
What you said?
You give me a date with your girlfriend Nina and I'll give you your 10K.
My girlfriend. Guys, everybody don't like ask about family, moms, sisters with me, okay, and girls too. If someone gonna talk about that, you're gonna be dead. And don't care this is rough USA or UFC belt. If you're gonna touch my family, you're gonna be dead, okay? And you too. Shut your mouth and be respectful for the girls, okay?
All right, Mike.
You can talk about me, but not about my friends and everybody.
Oh, that wasn't a joke.
And I'm amazed by the anger from Arman and that married woman over Giorgio's comment, which they consider disrespectful, after they both crossed every boundary of respect and common decency a long time ago.
I gotta say something. Giorgio! Hey! Giorgio, what was that? What was that?
We're going to have some one-on-ones
Promo.
outside this door.
Respectfully. It was disrespectful.
What part?
The part where you mentioned me up there. Disrespectful.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
No, because you were nice in the lobby, and I took a picture. And I was trying to be really respectful, but I didn't like that shit.
With the press conference over, the wrestlers of the 7th edition of the RAF event faced off, and I don't know what the executives were thinking when they put these two matchups as the co-main event and the main event on the exact same card. And what we saw here definitely doesn't promise that the night of March 28th will pass peacefully. All that was running through my mind when I was watching the face-offs was I hope Ben Askren's words are true.
Well, I know RAF, we've talked about this, there's going to be extra security. We cannot let what happened last time, that the chaotic fight, we can't let that happen.
Because RAF is more of a side mission than a main goal for most of the athletes competing. Weigh-ins are held on the morning of the event. There's no need for extreme weight cuts, as both wrestlers simply agree on a set weight class. Just like in the first match, Arman and Giorgio agreed on a 170-pound limit, and both successfully made weight. Then as scheduled, they showed up to do their part for the fans. Later that night, coinciding with the start of the UFC Seattle main card, the 7th edition of RAF kicked off in Tampa, Florida, after big names in wrestling stepped onto the mat, from NCAA champion Jason Nolf to youth world champion Bo Bassett to the trilogy between Ahmed and Kyle Snyder to the legend Kyle Dake. It was finally time for the co-main event. And honestly, I don't know why, but I felt secondhand embarrassment for Colby and Dylan when they walked out after all those names. Since Dennis specializes in grappling, I didn't expect him to have anything for a wrestler at that level. But he surprised me by taking Colby down twice, despite losing by a wide margin that reached 10 points, with Colby finishing it by tech fall. The result might have looked completely different. After that painful ending in Seattle, Giorgio walked out immediately, then Arman followed. I didn't really see the heavy security Ben was talking about, but it seems like they were both given strict instructions backstage. The first round was calm. Giorgio's clubs weren't as aggressive as in the first fight, and he didn't try to provoke Arman this time. Aside from a few failed takedown attempts and a push out that wasn't scored for Arman, the round ended 1-0 for Arman after a penalty on Giorgio for stalling. Round 2 was almost identical. More failed takedowns and another point for Arman due to inactivity. Going into the third round, Giorgio was just 2 minutes away from achieving his only goal, survive without getting taken down. But what happened next made him want more than that. After forcing Giorgio out of bounds, Arman scored his third point, making it 3-0. Then in a very high-level exchange, Giorgio countered a near takedown and scored 2 points. The second time Arman had been taken down in a single month. But Arman, being the smarter fighter, used Giorgio's aggression and overcommitment against him, exposing his back to the mat and adding 2 more points. As the exchange continued, Giorgio failed to finish a takedown, but managed to push Arman out for his third point. With 40 seconds left, the score was now 5-3 for Arman, and it seemed like Giorgio, rather than being satisfied with not getting taken down, started getting greedy. In the final seconds, after another failed takedown attempt, Arman defended easily, took his back, and didn't just settle for a takedown. He launched him for 4 points, ending the match 9-3. And the look on Giorgio's face when he realized he was no longer not possible to take down and now owed that $10,000 was priceless. When the final whistle blew, Arman didn't rush him like before, he just stood there gloating over him. And with everything over, they made peace, and Arman moved on to his next rivalry.
Nobody beat me in the ATT, you know, and especially you in the wrestling.
I guess that's what we're gonna find out soon in the RAF mat.
Yeah, let's do it. You have a just good cardio, that's all. Bro, like Dylan Dennis almost beat your ass. How you gave him points, bro?
What do you mean, bro?
He has 0 freestyle wrestling. How you gave him points, bro?
But personally, I'd rather see him face Mikey Musumeci under the UFC BJJ banner. Although chasing match after match outside of MMA isn't exactly a good sign for his return to the UFC octagon.
Can he perform in UFC BJJ? Arman?
Arman, yep.
Sarukin?
Yep.
I guess. I don't know. Is that what he wants to do?